Imagine waking up one morning to discover that a group of criminals had pulled off the biggest cash robbery in your country's history. No guns fired, no bank vaults blown apart, no high-speed shootout. Just one carefully planned operation that stopped a moving train and disappeared with what would be worth more than $70 million today. This is the story of the Great Train Robbery of 1963. A crime so bold that it captivated the world, embarrassed the government, and turned several thieves into international legends. But what happened after the robbery may be even more unbelievable than the crime itself. In the summer of 1963, Britain was changing. The economy was growing, cash was king, and every night, large amounts of money traveled by rail between Scotland and London. One train in particular caught the attention of a criminal mastermind named Bruce Reynolds. The Glasgow to London Royal Mail train regularly carried millions of pounds in cash. Security was surprisingly simple. There were no armed guards, no armored cars, and most importantly, very few people knew exactly how much money was on board. But Reynolds and his crew had inside information. They learned that a special holiday weekend would leave unusually large amounts of cash moving through the system. The prize? More than 2.6 million pounds, an amount so large that it would become the biggest robbery Britain had ever seen. Reynolds assembled a team of experienced criminals, each with a specific role. The plan would take months of preparation, and every detail had to be perfect. The operation began shortly after 3 a.m. on August 8, 1963. The train was speeding through the English countryside when something unusual appeared ahead. The signal light turned red. The train driver had no choice. He applied the brakes. What he didn't know was that the robbers had tampered with the signal system. As the train came to a stop near a bridge, masked men emerged from the darkness. The gang quickly boarded the train. When the driver investigated the signal problem, he was overpowered and removed from the locomotive. The robbers then disconnected most of the train cars, leaving only the engine and the money carriage. But there was a problem. None of the criminals knew how to properly operate the train. After several failed attempts, they forced a railway employee to move the train to a nearby location known as Bridego Bridge. There, the gang formed a human chain. Bag after bag of cash was thrown from the train into waiting trucks. The operation took less than an hour. By dawn, the robbers had vanished, and Britain was waking up to one of the most audacious crimes in history. The final haul was staggering. 2.6 million pounds in used banknotes. At the time, it was an unimaginable amount of money. Newspapers across the country exploded with headlines. The public was fascinated. How could anyone pull off such a crime? Many people secretly admired the gang. To some, they looked like modern-day Robin Hoods, but investigators saw something very different. The robbery had humiliated law enforcement. Authorities launched one of the largest manhunts in British history. Thousands of leads poured in. Roadblocks were established, informants were questioned, and detectives worked around the clock searching for even the smallest mistake. It turned out the robbers had made one. A very big one. After the robbery, the gang hid at a farmhouse called Leatherslade Farm. The location seemed perfect. Remote, quiet, safe. The plan was to lie low before disappearing forever. But impatience became their downfall. Some gang members spent their time playing board games and handling objects throughout the house. When police eventually discovered the farmhouse, they found fingerprints, lots of them. Investigators suddenly had the evidence they needed. One by one, members of the gang were identified and arrested. The walls were closing in. The perfect crime was beginning to unravel. Several gang members received lengthy prison sentences. Among them was Ronnie Biggs. But Biggs would soon become one of the most famous fugitives in the world. Just 15 months into his sentence, he escaped from prison by scaling a wall and fleeing in a waiting van. What followed was a decades-long international manhunt. Biggs lived in multiple countries, including Brazil, where legal loopholes made extradition difficult. For years, he gave interviews, sold his story, and became a celebrity criminal. Meanwhile, mastermind Bruce Reynolds spent years on the run before eventually being captured. The gang that once believed they had achieved the perfect crime was now scattered across the globe. Some were imprisoned, some disappeared, and some spent decades looking over their shoulders. The Great Train Robbery remains one of the most famous heists in criminal history, not because it was violent, not because it involved advanced technology, but because it was daring, carefully planned, and almost successful. For a brief moment in 1963, a group of ordinary criminals outsmarted an entire nation. Yet in the end, it wasn't sophisticated detective work that brought them down. It was something far simpler: human error. A reminder that even the most brilliant criminal plans often collapse because of the smallest mistakes. And that's why, more than 60 years later, the Great Train Robbery still fascinates the world. If you enjoyed this story and want more true crime documentaries about history's most infamous criminals, robberies, and unsolved mysteries, make sure to like this video, subscribe to Criminal Chronicles, and turn on notifications. Because next time, we'll uncover another crime that changed history forever.